Ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. The panel for today is about Russia and the Middle East amid new regional realities. I am Dr. Dalsoz Jalal, as she said, she introduced me. I will be a moderator for this panel. The last 2 days, there were so many talks about the Middle East. And they said Middle East is very complicated and too many things going on. And I heard this one of the researchers said some countries in the ages of the collapsing. But I'm not going to tell that one. I said the situations of the Middle East is almost boiling up. For centuries, the Middle East has been an arena of competition between Russia and the other superpowers. And Russia, in this regard, finds a lot of interests. These interests continue and drives Russia's policy in the region. Even in the wake of the 7 October 2023, the war between Israel and Hamas. Even its interests continue during the collapses one of the very close ally of the Russia, the regime of Bashar al-Assad. The Russian interests also continue during the process of rebuilding new Syrian regime. With the outbreaks of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine and imposition sanctions on Russia, Russia tries its best to open huge diplomatic and trade door with the Middle East countries and build up deep trust with some countries of the Middle East, like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and some other Gulf states. Even encourages those countries in the Middle East to join those organizations that that Russia plays a leading role, like the BRICS and Shanghai. This will be a topic of our discussion with my distinguished guest, and I will ask them how Russia plays this role. Today we will be with us Dr. Nikolay Surkov. He is a senior research fellow at the Institute of the World Economy and International Affairs of the Russian Academy of Science. And Ambassador Aleksander Aksenenok. He is Vice President of Russian International Affairs Council. And Dr. Jahangir Karami. He is an International Relations Associate Professor, Department of International Relations of the University of Tehran. Very welcome, sir. Okay. Сегодня наша тема разговора про Россию, но, к сожалению, у нас нет переводчика на русском, поэтому мы можем говорить только на русском. I just said today our topic is about Russia, but unfortunately we do not have a translator. That's why we are just speaking in English language. Okay. Dr. Nikolay, let's start with you. According to the final report issued by the Munich Security Conference, February 2025, like it means just a few days back, they said that the world is moving toward multipolarity, means moving away from unipolar and bipolar. My question is here. If we just take Middle East issues, where does Russia find itself in this multipolarization? And how does Russia play a role in this multipolarization? Please.
Thank you for this question, and I would like to thank Rudau for inviting me, for bringing me here and giving me an opportunity to convey Russian position to you. But I have to make a disclaimer that I'm not representing in any capacity the Russian government. I'm speaking as a private researcher. So what I would like to say is that I very carefully listened to the previous discussions, and several times I heard people saying that Russia is withdrawing from the Middle East, which is not true. Of course, Russia is very much focused on the events and the processes in its immediate neighborhood, but it is only a tactical issue. But in the strategic perspective, Russia will play visible role in this region, and I will explain why. First of all, we can see that since Russian relations with the West deteriorated dramatically, Russia is adjusting its foreign policy. Russia is turning eastward. Russia is turning towards the global south. But what's more important, from the Russian perspective, this world is really becoming multipolar. And we can see, I did quite an extensive analysis during the previous year because there was Russian presidency in the BRICS, and I had to also provide some reports on that. So anyway, we can see that the Arab countries already live in the multipolar world, and Russia lives in the multipolar world. And from that perspective, the Middle East is a priority because the Middle East is definitely one of the powerhouses, not only of the global south, but of the world as a whole. And Russia, as I said, is very much focused now on the global south, and Russia will try and will do its best to establish new economic and political alignments in the global south, and will develop the new strategic partnerships. We already have strategic partnerships with Arab states. It's Egypt, it's Algeria, it's United Arab Emirates. So many key players are already working with Russia, but well, sometimes this cooperation might be broader, sometimes it's not as broad, but still this is the trend which we observed for at least 20 years. And I would have to say that from the Russian perspective, what we really need to think about, well, of course we have global rivalries between Russia and the West, between US and China, and many other issues. But there are still global challenges which require global reaction, global response. And in this particular sphere, our views coincide with the approach of the Arab states, because all the Arab states, when we ask them about the BRICS agenda, for example, they always say that, of course, there will always be global power rivalries, but there will always be global challenges that can be fixed only on the global scale. Challenges like climate change, food security, pandemics, strategic stability. These things must be dealt with by as many countries as possible. This is the issue which is very important. And Russia, as for the Middle East, so Russia wants to establish very broad, multidimensional ties with the Middle East and with the MENA region, as I said, one of the powerhouses of the global world. And from that perspective, we are not willing to engage in any kind of geopolitical competition in this region. We know that countries of the Gulf and many others, they are afraid that the global powers will turn this region once again into an area of confrontation. We don't want that. Actually, we also want to see this region stable, prosperous, and safe, because that's one of the key conditions for the future development of the global south and for the fixing of the balance, because after all, what is the main idea of the multipolarity? It is supposed to fix the imbalances that exist in the world order. We need to think about the UN reform. We need to think about rebalancing of the global financial systems. And from that perspective, Russia and the Arab states, they stand on the same side. We can often hear that we need to create alternative financial mechanisms. We often hear that UN reform is an essential thing, to make it more transparent, to make it more efficient. We saw it in Gaza. UN was paralyzed. So these are the things that require effort. There is also the issue of extremism, and terrorism, which is also very important, not only for the Middle East, which is threatened directly, but also for Russia. Russia also has a very big Muslim community, which is vulnerable to extremist propaganda, to extremist radical indoctrination. So we have to protect our citizens. So, as I said, despite the tactical changes and despite the fact that Russia has to focus on Ukraine now and other countries in the immediate neighborhood, Russia will stay in the Middle East. And in the long run, Middle East will be one of Russia's key partners, both in economy, in politics, and I think also in solving global problems.
Let me take this point. You said Russia is going to stay in the Middle East and will be an active player. Recently, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with the assistance of Donald Trump, the US president, promises to redraw the maps of the Middle East. Okay, the question is here. Will Russia just only be observer of that redrawing, or it will take a part? The history is going to repeat, and Russia will be one of the active players to redrawing this map?
Well, I think Russia is not trying to redraw anything in the Middle East. What Russia was always trying to do is to be a status quo player, believe me or not. Actually, from the Russian perspective, the situation that existed before the Arab Spring was much more stable than the one we have now. So, believe me or not, but Russia's return to the Middle East, I mean, from the political, from the military perspective, was also dictated by the necessity to stabilize the region. Well, the way Russia sees it, especially by the necessity to fight extremism, as I've mentioned, and to support the national states, because from, as we see it from Moscow, still the region, the key players in this region are national states, and any destabilization is any destabilization of any regional state involves then other international players, for regional powers, and that always provokes a major crisis. So that was the attitude of Russia, and I think it will prevail. And well, of course, now we have a different situation, but this is the Russian approach, to keep the region as stable as possible. I know it is very difficult to remain equidistant in this region, but that's what Russia is also trying to do, to maintain balance in its policies. For example, Russia is trying to develop ties with Iran, but at the same time, Russia has very good relations with some Gulf states. And these things are not incompatible, by the way. That's what we're trying to show. And we are also trying to show that a foreign power, a global power, can still play a constructive role in this region. Just like China. Actually, when we discuss this issue with our Chinese counterparts, they also say that our goal is stability. But their motto is stability through development. Well, Russia, as you probably saw, Russia is ready to engage in different spheres, including the military. But it is also Russia's goal.
Okay. In my introduction, I said Russia built a deep trust with some Gulf states, in particular with some Middle East countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia. And recently, Saudi Arabia is going to be a place for the meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. How has Saudi Arabia become that country to create a deep trust with Russia? Why Saudi Arabia become the deep trusted status for Russia?
I can explain it. Well, from the Russian perspective, it is important to find in this region partners that maintain strategic autonomy. You know, Russia really appreciates Saudi willingness to guarantee its strategic autonomy. We also like this idea of positive neutrality, which the Saudis promote. So, positive neutrality, strategic autonomy, these are we, especially now when the world is getting multipolar, we see Saudi Arabia as an independent player that can be trusted, that is actually able to defend its own interests, and that can take an independent stance. We saw it even after 2022, when they refused to join the sanctions, when they maintained very active diplomatic efforts. So it is important. This is one of the key issues. But we can also see that the Saudis, they don't want to engage in any great power rivalries. We appreciate the fact that they really follow this neutrality principle, and that the Saudis are, well, to a certain degree, they are really now a global player that can make a difference, and this is very important. But it's not only Saudi Arabia, it's also the UAE. The UAE is a very important player. Actually, the UAE was a country which helped Russia to establish its foothold in the Gulf. It was also, and we have Egypt. Don't forget that. We have many partners. By the way, I have to add one thing. Yes, Russia lost one of its allies, which was the Syrian government. But Russia has other partners in this region, and that is one of the reasons why Russia is here to stay.
Let me ask you one more question, but I want you to answer it very quickly. Russia witnessed the collapses of its close ally Bashar al-Assad, the regime of Bashar al-Assad. And now the new regime is going to be built up in Syria. How do you think, how will be the relationship between Russia and the new regimes in Syria? How the Russia will deal with this new regime?
Well, I can tell you that Russian attitude towards the new authorities is very pragmatic. Well, first of all, there was a clear statement on behalf of the Russian officials that Russia dealt with different political regimes in Syria. Don't forget that cooperation between the Soviet Union and Syria started long before Hafez al-Assad was in power. It was started in the mid-1950s. So Russia could deal with different regimes, and Russia can also deal even with Islamists. We have quite pragmatic relations with Taliban now. So it is possible. And Russia also had dialogue with some groups, even in Idlib, you know, when all those de-escalation zones were discussed. So some ties were established. So Russia is ready to deal with the government, but there are benchmarks. They should follow certain paths. And this path was mentioned here many times: an inclusive government, respect for minorities, and no terrorism. These are the things that are important for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. Aleksander, Aksenenok, вы слышите нас?
Да.
Отлично.
Вы меня слышите?
Мы слушаем вас. Хорошо.
Слышите меня?
Извините, я слушаю вас. Все нормально.
Слышите меня, да?
Okay. I would like to ask you a question, Aleksander Aksenenok. On the 18th anniversary of the diplomatic relationship between Russia and Iraq, September 2024, the Iraqi foreign minister, Dr. Fuad Hussein, expressed his pride of his historical relationship between Iraq and Russia. My question is here for you. What has Russia done that Iraq is proud of its relationship with Russia? What are the Russia's interests and drivers behind those interests in relationship with Iraq?
Yes. You see, I just, it was rather unexpected to me, your question about Iraq. But still, I'll try to clarify the Russian position and Russian interests in Iraq. If we look through the relations between Russia and Iraq since 2003, you can notice that these relations developed in more or less positive way, in spite of all turbulences in Iraq, the American occupation, civil war, so on and so forth, economic failures. But Russia always tried to cooperate, to encourage the the more or less independent course of Iraqi government, and encouraging it to mediate in the Arab world between Saudi Arabia and Iran, for instance. And then we have also common economic interests. Russian companies participate in oil projects in Iraq. There convergence of interests, not only on anti-American stance, because Russia fully understand the circumstances which the Iraqi government in. But I just wanted to concentrate, just to save time in the end of this conference. I just want to concentrate more. I think it is much more maybe important in terms of Russia policy in the Middle East at the present time. First basket of issues: Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East. The second, Gaza, Israel, Palestine, Russia, and the USA, the second packet of issues. And the third, Syria, regional and international aspects from Russia's perspective. I want to add something to what my colleague Surkov said. It is a common knowledge that Ukraine war is now a central consideration, shaping Russia's approach to global politics, including the Middle East. Meanwhile, the whole things became much more complicated, and sometimes even not only complicated, but intricated for everybody. In terms of the Middle East, Russia see actually no substantial political damage for its regional politics. And I confirm that Russia is not going to withdraw anywhere from the region. From Russia's perspective, the final outcome, it is very important to have in mind that the final outcome of Ukraine conflict, actually it is not about Ukraine at all. It is about European, Euro-Atlantic, Euro-Asian security in the end of the day. So from Russia's perspective, the final outcome of Ukraine conflict would be decisive and maybe fateful for the whole world. On the background of the war, the West attempts to throw Russia out from the region. It is quite evident. I don't think these attempts will succeed. Even if Russia does not participate directly in mediation efforts on Gaza, it will undoubtedly has a say and its footprint in formulating the day after status of Gaza, and also further Israeli-Palestinian, Israeli-Arab relations on the basis of regional conflicts need regional solutions. Because from Russian perspectives, it's a time when the regional powers should play major role and the global ones facilitate them in their strivings, in their aspirations in the region. The sense of frustration with shifting U.S. policies has led the Gulf leaders. I think the Gulf now in the center of regional and the global politics. So the Gulf leaders, they seek alternative alliances and partnership with China and Russia. This kind of course now is being called balancing act. Yes, it is well.
Aksenenok, let me interrupt you
Yes.
and ask you one question. Let's turn to the relationship between, turn to Kurdistan region. What we note that, and history also prove it, that Russia has been mainly trying to strengthen its relationship with state actors. My question is here. How has Russia formulated its relationship with non-state actors? If we just take Kurdistan region as an example.
Kurdistan region is, encompass four countries. So Russia's political line, political posture in what is concerned question of Kurdish future was always based on the recognition of minority rights in accordance with international law. Russia, it is well known that Russia made a lot of efforts to convince President Assad to change his course toward Kurdish minority. It is well known, it is widely known, and Russia even presented a draft of Syrian constitution when the parliament consists of two chambers. So, and then Russia had a lot of compliances, agreements with Turkey, but never betrayed this principal line, the not secession, but the autonomy in the framework of unitary state, not maybe federal one, because federalism, an experience of federalism is very hard, in the Arab region. You take Yemen, for instance. So the Kurdish question, Kurdish issue, is very, 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 very important, very central one in all political reforms. Should be settled in accordance with the rights of Kurdish minority, and having in mind the Kurdish minority maybe have a special case in in Syria or in Iraq, in Syria, in comparison with the other minorities. So Russia see the model in accordance with the autonomous status in the framework of
Aleksander Aksenenok, I have another question for you, but if you answer me very quickly, it will be so nice. The Russian Federation yearly provides a great number of academic seats for the Iraqi students. For this academic year, 2025-2026, Russia provided 260 scholarships, including 70 seats for the Kurdish region. The question is here. Still, the Iraqi people are not very aware of your language, of your culture. Don't you think there is a big gap here? Why the Russia is not going to open such a, I don't know, training center or the other thing is to make your culture to be, to make the peoples of Iraq to be aware of your culture and your language?
You know, I just tell you frankly that I'm not in picture of this question you raised about the stipends for Kurdish students. But what I want to add, it is on Syria. I think that this issue, this very important issue for our Kurdish and Arab colleagues, it's a very important issue. It remained uncovered. So on Syria, I would like, with your permission, I would like to add on Syria, because a lot of judgments have been spread about the broader implications for Russia after the fall of Assad regime. Some of them are mere speculations. The other one, exaggerations, not more. The third are stemming from a lack of knowledge about the real dynamic and evolution of relationship between Russia and its Syrian ally. I would like to make several points. First, there is an argument that Russia's prioritizations of its military operation in Ukraine had affected its capability to keep Assad in power. In part, it is true, but it is not the only and even not the main reason. The main motivation for Russia's intervention in Syria since 2015 was not to ensure Assad in power, but in this case, the global calculations prevailed to seek partnership with the United States in combating terrorism, the way as cooperation on chemical weapons with Obama. So regaining global recognition of Russia as a great power, that was the main motivation.
Dr. Aleksander Aksenenok, we running out of time. Thank you so much for your view, your point of view.
No, give me a chance to complete.
At the end, if we have a time, I will give you a time and speaking, because maybe we will have some questions from the audience. But let me go to the next speaker. At the end, I will come back to you.
The Russia's present politics on Syria remained uncovered, remained unexplained.
At the end, if we have a time, we will come back to you because still because we have another speaker. He has to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jahangir Karami. Let's go to the relationship between Iran and Russia. Russian Federation during the Biden administration created a very strong relationship with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And Moscow and Tehran even teamed up for a long term and signed a wide-range treaty on 17 January 2025. The question will be here. What will happen to this relationship under the Donald Trump administration? Will it continue? Because as we know, somehow the relationship between Russia and America is going to be smooth and going to be strong.
Thank you very much for Rodao Media Network for organizing this. I would like to speak in Kurdish Kalhuri dialect, but I have some slides so I can show it to the audience. This subject, the main subject I want to talk about is the change in the Russian foreign policy after the Ukrainian war, especially after the collapse of and the fall of Syrian government. Beginning, I have mentions some of the lines that shows that change has occurred will occur in the Middle East. Those changes serious and shows that it's a regional system, regional system is heralding in the region. And that's why the main subject in the slide is how we can Russian foreign policy understand it in this context. If we can go to the next slide, please. In this slide, here I'm talking about the main basis of Russian foreign policy since 2012 until 2022, and with the Iranian support to help Syrian government and protecting relations with all Middle East countries. And in truth, there's a regional parallel with the protection of Russian military bases in the region against those security measures that led by United States and preventing instability Far East, Asian Far East. And the outcome of this report is that Russia is in the last those 10 years has been seen as a security and military player in the region. This next slide, please. In this slide, as you see, it's about the main base of Russian foreign policy structure. Show you after the start of Ukrainian war in 2022. Those things that Russia has faced with those economic sanctions the West has imposed, and this has resulted in priority to change and uh, uh, doesn't play the security military game that in the last decade played. And the Russian policy in the Middle East, it shows that in the yeah, in the 2023, it emphasizes that Russia sees Islamic world countries as focus on those countries to protect its economy interests, and within this framework work with regional countries like Turkey, Saudi, Iran, and UAE, and gave more importance to Russia, especially in terms of economics. That's why the Middle East region, more than any time, Russia's focus more on economic interest. And let's go to the last slide. So I see more the future prospect, the future prospect of the Russian foreign policy in Middle East. The possibility agreement between Russia and United States is a lot, and there's a big possibility, and there's a big possibility that there's a ceasefire in Ukraine as well, and if those things happen, Russia for the next 10 years will continue to be an economic player in the Middle East, and Russia is far from just look at a simple player, military and political player in the region. I want to tell you in simple terms that the protecting power balance and economic relationship will be the main focus or main priorities of Russian foreign policy in the region. And the base of my report is Russia of 2022 will be an economic player in Middle East, and the perspective of Russia integrating into security and military player won't be happening. That's why my slides are finished. I'm ready for questions. You talked about what about during the Trump administration, what the relationship will hold between Iran and Russia. The relationship between Russia and Iran after the Soviet Union in the last 35 years, those relationship in regional term, international, has achieved a lot. Important achievement. The trade volume is $5 billion annually. They have cooperation in Afghanistan, regarding Afghanistan, in the Far East, and they have common interest in a lot of sectors. And both countries are member of Shanghai Economic Council and members of BRICS, and Iran is a member of Eurasia. Regarding Trump, if they agree with he agrees with Russia, and there's a concern among the political analysts, Iranian political analysts, and that because of Russia is serious and active in this regard. Russia is an active country. It could make an agreement with U.S. against the interests of Iran in a way. If you look at the pragmatically, there's in the eyes of Russia, there's no interest in push away Iran from the regional calculations. And the relationship between Russia and Iran is very strong. What impact this relationship have on other nations from the Middle East, especially on Kurds in Iran and outside Iran? If it's quick, please. After the fall of Syrian former regime, Iran and Russia, they have not have any relations. They don't have any common relations to play against other sides or other countries in the region. And the type of the game Russia plays in the region is a way that doesn't affect other countries' interests in the region. And there might be shortages between relationship between Iran and Russia, because Russia so far hasn't been serious in going to a relationship in the region to protect the balance of all regional powers. Always keep Russia doesn't go into detail, or Russia uses a strategy that doesn't go deep into a country in terms of relationship. And as well, after the Ukrainian war, there should be a few years work on technology and military capability to improve.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You wanted to say something about the last question, Dr. Aleksander Nikolay Surkov. That question which I asked Dr. Aleksander Aksenenok about the Russian culture and the Russian language here in the Iraq is not very popular. And there is still gap here in this around.
Actually, I completely agree with you that one of the key elements of Russia's soft power in the Middle East was the huge amount of people who received high education in the Soviet Union. These people are still they maintain very positive attitude towards Russia, and I really think that this policy should continue. Actually, as experts, we do our best to advocate for the expansion of educational programs and for establishing new cultural centers in the countries of the Middle East. That's what we constantly do. That's what we always say when we're invited to talk at the Ministry of Education, at the Ministry of Economics. We always say it. But, well, unfortunately, at the moment, Russia has certain constraints, but this policy is now under consideration, especially, as I said, because the Middle East is getting a priority now. So this, previously I can say that quite a lot of money was spent on projects in the Western world, but now this money is definitely going to be redistributed, and I think in the next 5 years we will see an expansion of Russian cultural presence in the Middle East.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much, Dr. Nikolay Surkov, Ambassador Aleksander Aksenenok, and Dr. Jahangir Karami. Our panelists covered a lot, and thank you so much for the audience. Unfortunately, we cannot take any questions as far as we do not have any time. So thank you so much again.
Dr. Dalsoz, you had time, but you decided not to take questions. I'm not responsible. مسؤولين به پیمود پرسیار ورگره گرته. نه نه کات من نما ببره. دست خوش دار فاس.